I define good notes as when you read it, you know exactly what you're going to do, or you know, it opens up a new inspiration, or it like triggers you to think about something a different way for the story, which will take your story in a direction that's better than it was before.
We are the
Get Reelisms podcast.
I am Adam Chase Ready.
And I am Christine Chen. And surprise, we're both filmmakers.
We get into it by sharing secrets, advice, and gossip in filmmaking.
We even get our other filmmaking friends to share theirs too.
So please, everybody, join us for
an ode to filmmaking.
I was just on the end of some really, really, really great notes for En route as well, and made a huge difference. And it's also the way that how you give notes too, that is important as well. I find that for me, the best notes are the ones that, if it's could be vague, they give examples of what you can do. You know, like, hey, this part is, that's what I try to do, because, you know, sometimes you could be like, oh, if you just say, I don't like this, or this part is slow, sometimes like that's just hard to understand. Like, okay, what do I do with that? You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's nice to just hear like, hey, this part feels slow because, and then whatever your, you know, the note or whatever. In yesterday, for example, a friend named John gave me notes, and he was like, hey, this part made me shut down when I read it immediately, and it was bad. I was like, holy shit, that's bad, because it was literally my first 2 pages. You never want a reader to shut down within your first 2 pages. That's bad. And so I was like, why? Why? He explained, well, like, it felt like it was gratuitous, like, trauma porn. I'm like, oh wait, but that was the polar opposite of what I was trying to do. And then he's like, well, the way you described it made it feel that way. And I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do then. So like, just being able to have that discussion and understand why with the person who's giving you the notes is like extra helpful, you know? Yeah. And so I feel like because I think new filmmakers, that's a big thing when you first start. I think it's easy to be afraid to share your work. And maybe sometimes you can be defensive about it because you feel like it's an attack on something that you've put in a lot of time and effort on, and it isn't maybe an attack on your skills, and it's not. I think the best filmmakers want notes, because the thing is, your stuff is going to be seen by hopefully many people. And you can't assume that the way you see the world or the way you interpret something is going to be the same as the thousands of people who are going to watch your work. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff that people come in with are like, how did you interpret that way? Like, right. Sometimes you'll have that note where you're like, really? Like, somebody interpreted that way, but you'll get that one like out of left field where you just you didn't realize that, oh, that's because I don't think that way doesn't mean that somebody else is going to watch something, you know. So that I think with reading, with watching, that's the beauty of the notes, is that you can get kind of like this average, you know, like, okay, 5 people told me this section was a problem. Okay, more than likely that section is a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Versus like, hey, this one person out of 100 people told me this was a problem. Okay, maybe you can take it with a grain of salt. But even though we're all so different, how we feel about art is weirdly like the same sometimes.
Yeah, I believe that.
And a lot of times people aren't able to like articulate when they give you a note. They might feel like something's wrong here, but it's really because it's like when you're hurting, it's like your body. Sometimes maybe you have pain, I don't know, in your head, but that's actually because your teeth, something's wrong with their teeth. You know, like what they have a problem with may not be what they're saying is the problem. It may be because of something else that's trickling down that's causing it to be a problem at this exact moment. You know,
it's not like it's a misdiagnosis, but it's just it's a problem, and you're saying that there's something wrong right now in this, and then but it's hard to identify the root and the cause of it.
Correct. It's hard to identify the root and the cause.
Because you can't. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say that process can be both frustrating but also like very exciting as well. It's like you're sleuthing. You're on a detective mission. Like why is this part slow? Like why? So you're asked. So it's fun to like when you get the notes. You know, oftentimes I ask to discuss them with somebody, or hey, can I have follow-up questions about this? And you know, I want to understand why you feel that way, you know, type thing. So I will quote Ted Lasso, who was like, approach everything with curiosity. Like, dude, like that's the way you do it. You take the notes and you approach everything with curiosity. Why? And as a note taker, or sorry, as a person who provides notes, that's the best thing you can do as well. Is I love asking the writer, so what were you trying to accomplish? Let's first talk about that. And then I can tell you whether or not, from my perspective, you achieve that or not. You know? So that's a super fun process. And I don't know, there are people who are like, you are a great note giver. And there are people you're like, I don't want to give you anything else to look at anymore, you know, type thing. And it's just in the way that you, I guess, explain the note that can connect to somebody in a way that they can take it to make the changes that are needed, if that makes any sense. And everybody is just different. Yeah. I love this process. I used to be very scared of this process because I don't know, I guess it's like, oh, I'm the artist and I know best, right? That's sometimes you can get into that mindset, that ego mindset. But I feel like
think of it as like a vulnerability thing. It's like showing. It's like I don't know. It's like showing your bedroom for the first time. You know, like to a friend or to somebody who you really like. Is just be like, this is my collection. These are my toys. This is everything that I love. This is my bed. You know, like there's a vulnerability thing to it. So when somebody says, I don't like it, then you just sort of feel like you got to shut yourself off. You. Yeah, exactly. And you don't need, like, I feel like if you give the notes to people who you respect and people who you work with, I feel like any note that I get is gold, just because I know who they are, and I know that like they oftentimes see the creative side of because I wouldn't give notes to like, you know, I wouldn't ask notes from like my dad.
Right.
You know, I love my dad. I love him to death, but he would read it and be like, oh yeah, that's good. I don't know.
It's cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. You know, type thing. Yeah. Yesterday so the same John who gave me some great notes. Also, I think there's some comments we need to probably read. But yesterday when I got notes from John, it was very funny, and I feel really bad because he had just come back from work, and John is he typically works G&E electric type thing, and I was like, hey,
the hardest labor positions on a film set.
Yeah, I was like, do you like reading scripts, and do you think you would be a good person to read a script? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I went to school for like writing and stuff like that. I was like, great. Can you read this really quick? And of course it's en route. And then 5 minutes later, he's like sobbing. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. This was like this is not like a fun script. This is like an emotional roller coaster script. Yeah. I feel terrible.
It's intense.
2 hours. Yeah, it's intense. 2 hours later, I've like capitalized all his like free time. He's about to go somewhere, and he's like sobbing, and I'm like, ooh, whoopsies.
Shit.
I should have. shit. I mean, that's great, but like maybe I should have been more aware when I gave you the script. I'm just so not aware anymore because I've been writing the script for so long that like I have no emotions anymore.
Well,
And I
it's
don't
not
even know
your
it's
job
good.
to be in the mindset of whoever's reading a script, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is kind of funny though. Just be like,
Yeah.
dog, I did not know I was going to be in a fucking roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
I
He
got to
was like,
take a walk now.
pretty much. He was just looked at me. He was just like, first of all, thank you for writing this. Thank you for sharing this. But I need give me some time real quick. Yeah.
Let me
'Cause he had
marinate
just,
in
like,
this.
he like was sobbing and I'm like, oh no. Oopsies. Like I shit. Like because he was like he went from like, hey, like let's watch Ted Lasso to like, oh my god, humanity. Oh my, just and I like, okay, next time I need to preface that when I give people my work to read.
It might be.
But this is also very validating too. I'm like, okay, well, this is great. I'm glad they had a reaction. The worst is when like you are supposed. I don't think I've had this experience, but maybe more so when people are viewing something, but less about the script because usually I send the script. I'm not around when they're reading it. But when you're watching it and they're not laughing the right places or they're not like having an extreme guttural reaction to something that you had thought would have that reaction, I think that's the worst feeling. It's better when people have an extreme emotion than like nothing at all, like an apathy type thing. You never want to create something where like people are just like, meh, okay, cool,
Right. But that also goes back to like who you can depend on to read these notes, to give you those notes that you need. Gilbert Baker said something pretty profound. I have found sometimes there are edits on notes necessary to help keep production on schedule or on budget or stand by just in case of emergency edits with indie films for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about that with Ursley. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Jesus. I rewrote so many things on the fly. It wasn't even funny. Like just on the fly.
Pre-production, production, post.
To solve problems. Yeah, to solve problems. A lot of it was just really to solve problems. And that's a power, honestly. Like that if you can solve problems just through writing, it's a power. It was on Ursley, we had a location that like flooded that we couldn't access the place where like this giant epic climax took place and there was no beach to do that at, so I had to rewrite it in a way that could accommodate the schedule because we had to push the shooting a week after, which was not the week that one of our actors who's supposed to be in the climax could do. And so I had to creatively like rewrite certain things and cut certain things out to like make it all make sense, but still work with what's happening in the environment and what's happening life-wise with. I think that stuff is the most interesting things about filmmaking. I think as filmmakers, that's the part that I'm appreciating the most being here in Los Angeles is being part of DJM. I'm able to go and listen to a lot of these Q&As with filmmakers, producers and stuff. And it's hearing that things didn't go perfectly. Like that's the stuff, the juicy bits that I learned the most from, hearing somebody be like, oh yeah, like it looks like she's interacting with it's a film about kids and students and it looks like the teacher's interacting with the students, but there were no students. Those were shot separately because of scheduling. You're like, what?
That's
that's the cool part. That's the part that like regular people don't get to hear most of the time.
No, yeah, because it's all about what's in the edit, what's in the because, and you're right too. That's a skill if you can write those changes in and adapt to those changes specifically and write them in. Gilbert says losing light, running out of time at a location. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being open to these processes allow for stronger storytelling on screen. I couldn't agree more.
Agreed.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Totally agree. I think the biggest thing it does is it makes you question, what is the absolute minimum that do I need to tell this story? Which is great, because that makes your story tighter. Because you don't want all the superfluous things, you want the absolute minimum that you great. You can, if you have the time and the budget and stuff to get all the other stuff, cool. More content is better when it comes to the edit. But like, it really nothing makes you cut pages faster than not having the time to shoot the stuff. And a lot of times that's the stuff that should have happened, honestly, in the writing. But we often rush and trying to get sometimes you have to, because the perfect investor is here, the perfect locations available, whatever it is, that it pushes you to maybe take a script that is maybe not completely at its tightest form to go and shoot. But when you're in production, it will make you tighten up that script if you don't have any resources and you are forced to make those cuts.
Especially if you're the writer.
Do I really?
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do I really need to show this person going in and out of this room 50 times? No. They can come from here to there. We cut this whole section out. I made several of those decisions for Ursula. It's funny how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, because changes always are gonna happen no matter what. Even when you have the right, like, I feel like not a lot of people really understand that. And like, I've even seen like behind the scenes, like featurettes on certain movies that I'm like rewatching, and I just go back and like watch the BTS of it, and I'm like, oh fuck. So they ran into a shit like I not too long ago I watched a BTS on Saving Private Ryan, and I thought that was like super informational, because there's one day where like it was like an interview with Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks was like, I remembered Steven showing up to set, and the weather was completely different than what was supposed to be like on the page and whatnot, and Steven like essentially like, instead of freaking out like a lot of directors do, especially ones that I worked with, they just essentially like, what Steven did was he just took like 5 laps around the set. He just walked by himself, but like around the set for like a minute, 2 minutes. And then he's just thinking, pondering, and then he comes back and he fluently says exactly what the changes are going to be and how they're going to execute it and how they're going to move on with their day. And he said, we made it. We made our day, meaning like we got into the 12 hours. Like we still got it fucking in, dude. Yeah. And all Steven did was just walk around just thinking. And then he comes back and he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And just rattles off everything. It's like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's the crowning evidence of a pro or somebody that hasn't done it enough. Because I talk to people a lot about this. Yes, when you're lighting something, people are like, yeah, but I can get to that result. It's not hard to do that. What's hard is when you're being thrown a bunch of factors that are beyond your control. You have to think on your feet like that with a bunch of people talking to you, and you got to problem solve right there in a timely manner. That's what differentiates the people who've done it a long time and the people who haven't. Like, can I DP something? Totally. But like, can I DP something like somebody who's purely a DP? No, because they probably DP'd like 50 things, and I can probably get to that result, but you got to give me like 2 hours to figure it out, but they can get it in 5 minutes,
Right.
That's the difference between somebody who is a pro at what they do. It's not necessarily like writing isn't anybody can write. That's the thing. I get this from clients all the time. And that's why this is such a subject I love talking about. Oh, well, I have my camera, I can shoot it and I can edit it, type thing.
Oh, can you?
Cool. Okay. And I know what will happen. They'll come back and they'll be like, oh, all the footage is shaky. Or, like what? I've had to explain this to so many people, so many clients, so many times. Like, you wanted the raw footage. I gave you the raw footage. Oh, yeah, but none of it's usable. No, that's not true. I film and there's moments, that's why you edit. I film for certain moments. And in those moments, I know I have 3 seconds here that is perfect. I know I have 2 seconds here in this clip that's perfect. I have 4 seconds. And people are so used to being like, oh, I took my phone and then like shot right when it starts, because a phone and a camera with 50 people on a team is different.
Very different.
Yeah. And so, and it's just funny because yes, I often have to explain to people, yes, the process, editing is just cut and put it together. Cut and put it together. It's very simple process. It is not hard. You import footage, you cut it out, and you put it in order. Like, that's literally it. But can you do that with 30 hours of footage within 1 hour? Like, within a timeline? As like, that's the part that's hard. That's the part that takes a lot of time and practice and everything. And so whenever a client comes to me and is like, oh yeah, well, like I can, I just need I don't need anybody to edit it for me and stuff. I'm always like, okay, we'll give it, let's see. I'm going to give this 3 hours and they're going to come right back to me. Yeah. Cause it'll just be like, well, how do I put this together? Like, oh, it took too long. Yeah. Yeah. Because I've been editing for 15 plus years now. Right. I know where everything is. I know my shortcuts, everything. It's going to take me, 10 times faster than you could. That's what you're paying me for.
Easily.
And that's why I get paid to do it. It's not because the process is hard. No, you just, you're right. You take import footage and you cut it and you put it in order. That's literally the process. But you pay somebody to do it because it would take you 10 times the amount of time to do it,
Right.
So,
and then
I don't know how we got off. Yeah.
No, I mean, this all relates to notes and whatnot, because a lot of times people don't even like I've even worked with clients that don't even know what they want, most of the time. Yeah. So they more times than not, they're like, oh, can we have this? Oh, can we have that? Oh, is this okay? And then, sometimes like I've even worked with directors who just flat out say, no, that's not possible. And the clients are like, well, we're going to have to make it possible. And I'm like, okay, they're going to be in a world of hurt by the end of the day. And sure enough, by the end of the day, they're like, actually, your way was way better. It's like, yeah, of course, because this person who has worked on commercials knows exactly where the beats and knows exactly where to go. And these clients, like, not all clients are like this, but a lot of them, a lot of them are.
I mean, it's the same thing as like ADing for first time director. It's always funny because they always like are fighting me about, no, it won't take that long. It's not gonna. I was like, dude, you don't even know. I've done 10 of these, and they never ever take 15 minutes or whatever you say it's going to take. Yeah. Then of course we get through it and they're like, it's like an hour later. And I'm like, I told you.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing too. Even in art department, working as a set deck, like I've been told that I've taken too long. I've been told that I've taken too long, when in reality, like, for those of you who don't know, for set deck on a indie film shoot, you're kind of like a glorified furniture mover. So, so you're moving a lot of furniture, and most of the time when you're like, when you have one shot, you don't realize that when you're moving on to a different shot, it's what you call flipping the world. So when you have to move, you're essentially moving all sorts of shit to what the
From one
frame
side
to
the
one
other.
side to then match it onto the other side, essentially. And you can't do that just by like dressing the entire room, for an instance, and then the camera can then freely go wherever. Sometimes you have that luxury, and it's fun.
Sometimes.
It's great. But most of the time when you're on an indie shoot,
But
you
things
don't.
will still need to move. Yeah,
You still need
things
to
will
move.
still
You
need to
have
move.
lights blocking a prop, or sorry, a specific set dressing
Yeah.
thing. You have all these things.
Yep, or the
And-
camera has to go where the couch is. Yeah.
Right. And I've been told that like, I don't want you to keep redressing all that when it's just going to be taking this long. And I'm like, okay, unless you can send me PAs to help me move this furniture, I'm doing this all shit by myself, bro. So whatever you want to do, you tell me. And then they'll be like, you know what? Actually, I'll go ahead and help you out. And there's one client one time that jumped in and helped me out, and they did not realize that it is very fucking hard and it's very fucking difficult because you only have so much time, and I'm sweating my balls off. I have like hair on my face. So it's like I'm greasy, I'm sweaty, and I'm just moving like couches and shit. Like I'm picking up like recliners by myself. And shit like that. I know how to properly pick up a whole ass recliner. It's not that hard actually, but it's heavy and you don't know how to do it right. You're going to rip your back up. And the client even like smashed their pinky finger by accident because they weren't using proper technique of moving shit. So then they resort to every single time, just like Christine was saying, they go back and they say, you know what, actually, it took too long for me to do it, and you were right. Yeah, we should have probably just probably stuck with what you said. Or maybe it's okay if I waited those 2 extra minutes and let art department or camera or lighting do the thing. That's the other part too, is like a lot of first-time directors, they don't realize like lights take a minute. They take a minute, and they don't understand it. They're just like, oh, can we shoot
What's
that?
taking so long?
Can we just shoot that? Can we just roll camera right now? It's like, you can't see shit. Like, what do you mean? You can't see it. I've literally like seen DPs look at directors and go, okay, so you want to shoot in darkness? Like total darkness? And they're like, well, I mean, like, is it hard to like put up like one light over there? And they're like, okay. And they'll set up that one light and it's not enough, clearly. And they're like, how about that? and the director's like, actually, that's not bright enough. I'm like, if you just fucking waited for 2 minutes and just shut your mouth, I'm sorry, but if you just literally wait, you will be surprised how much it makes a difference. You know what I mean? And the consistency too, they also don't realize as well. So you got to have your work
and they won't
be
know
consistent.
until they're in like post, and they're like, oh fuck.
Shit, this looks like a movie-ass movie. Oh, fuck. Whoa.
Yeah. And that's why I always tell people, like, having perspective is so important. You should try to, for people who are trying to make films and stuff, I think it's great to try to do one that's small, where you try to do everything. Because it will quickly educate you on what it's like to be another department. You will understand, oh, props take time to make. You'll understand, hey, lighting takes time to set up. Or I should schedule something this way for efficiency. Or maybe I should have an AD, like different things like that. Until you have, and I get it, until you've been in somebody's shoes, sure, it's hard to empathize and understand and stuff like that. So I think the best thing that beginning filmmakers can do is to just learn as much as you can about every single position, everything.
That's what you told
Yeah.
me my first day on
Yeah.
on writer's block as a PA. You're just like, all you're doing is being a sponge. Soak it all in.
Learn
You know?
everything.
Yeah.
Learn everything. I am right now. It's kind of almost a bit of a blessing to. I was really concerned that I pigeonholed myself joining the union too soon. I still am a little bit, but what it's forced me to do is I am taking jobs in other positions that I haven't worked in a while. So like camera, I've done some stuff. Opping, I'm going back to because I used to do a lot of camera stuff. You know, I used to op a lot, and that's
DP
helping
shit.
me. Yeah, that's helping me hone that skill now. Like, and that helps me be a better director as well. You know, and then I think another thing that I'm realizing is I'm surrounded by, like, there are, I'm submitting this to Nickel. I've met several Nickel Fellowship winners, and they're reading my script and giving me notes. Like, that's awesome, because that means that I get to be able to hopefully reach a higher level than I otherwise would have not if I were in an environment that didn't have that kind of talent, So I know I complain a lot about LA and stuff, and it's only because
I feel like it's justified. I mean,
it's hard.
it's a cesspool, I mean, I like LA. I've been there many times. I'm not from there. I'm from up north in Cali, but I've been to LA plenty of times, and it's I mean, the energy is very cutthroat. It's very like, this is my side. There's your side. Do not cross my fucking line.
I think it's not the cutthroat part. I think what it is that everybody is just trying to survive, and it is so hard to, because maybe in your town you were the best at whatever you were doing, but now you're here in LA where there's 50 of those who are the best in their town of what they were doing. And you have to stand out from those 50 people to survive and get the opportunities that you're trying to get. But that's also why I did this to myself, because I want to be able to compete. I was in a pot, and I grown into that pot already. Now I'm in a giant pot, and I'm tiny in that giant pot. I'm hoping to like grow and expand more in this tiny pot. And I reflect on it daily, and I'm like, okay, yes. Would I have been able to see Steven Spielberg like in front of me in Austin? No.
No,
Would I have been able to hear firsthand experience of all these directors and understand like the process they're going through, or like hang out with a Academy and Emmy nominated director, just hanging out or meet all these awesome writers and constantly. And I think the frustration is like, when you used to be, let's say you're the way I can think of it is like, let's say you're the best football player in this town, and now you're like one of 10. It's hard to start from the bottom.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. It's frustrating.
Because you have to reinvent yourself. You have to.
It makes you question everything.
You have to question everything, and you have to adapt. You have to essentially go back to the drawing board of what you first did, and that's hard for I mean, it's hard for even myself. Even in my previous career of working retail, like there was definitely like different companies that I worked at, and things are just very different than the previous company you worked for or whatever. Even if you are in a management position, in a higher position, you still have to work around your environment, and it's impossible if you do it in a cookie cutter approach where you're like, well, if it worked there, it works here. It's like, that's not how you do it. Just because the film industry here in Austin is, more or less forgiving does not mean it applies in LA whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure even Roxy can attest to that, So I just think that like it comes with its own set of problems. And I mean, you're doing the hard part currently.
Yes,
like you are
in it. I'm in it. I'm getting learned
knee deep in the muck. Yeah. And you are trying to adapt and readapt and adapt again, and you're taking it in stride, man. And I'm proud of you for doing that, because Lord knows I would have fucking never. And with how expensive it is too, like there's a whole load of stress. Yeah, I know. And I'm just reminding you of that. I'm sorry.
It's so hard. But in this process, I also realized, having a lot of friends come out of the woodworks and be like, hey, great job. Or like, are you okay? Or like, do you want to talk? It's like, that's amazing, to be reminded that I have a strong network of people who are behind me, who want to see me succeed and have reached out to me to make sure that I'm okay. This is such a frustrating process, but I am going to make LA my bitch. I'm just trying to figure out how right now.
Yeah, I mean, figure it out. And it will be hilarious when we still do this podcast like 3 years from now, and I'm going to ask you the questions like, so does LA suck? Like, bitch, LA's under my thumb right now, dude. I fucking own this city. What are you talking about, bro? No, but I mean,
I have some plans right now. Yes, I have some.
You're cooking. Plans. You're cooking, Christine.
I'm cooking right now.
And
I planted lots of seeds.
And that's all you really can do. I mean, it's a different environment. It's I mean, even moving here to Austin is completely different. And I don't even fully like feel like I'm an Austinite, or like I feel like I'm just like a resident in someone else's home, really. When I'm here in Austin.
Happen. Yeah.
How long
have you been in Austin now?
It will be 6 years this June. Yeah, it'll be 6 years this June.
Why?
And
I lived in Austin for 10 years. Is why. So
well, and there you go. So like, and I have yet to really explore the city too of Austin. Yeah. So and that's partially on me as well. But I mean, with all the politics aside and all that, with my frustrations and everything, it is what it is. But I keep going back to the people, especially in the Austin film community, who you've introduced me to, is like probably one of the best like group of people that I have truly have ever had the graces of working with, and the fact that they kind of like empower each other is also something quite awesome as well. So, not everybody, of course, but I see it way more than I thought I was gonna, because I thought it would be like a reflection of LA. Not at all. It really isn't. It's just this is a film community of nerds like myself who just give a shit about movies, give a shit about storytelling, and really want to tell it in the best way they possibly can. And you can't really ask for anything more. And I'm sure other towns are very much the same way. And maybe in certain circles in LA, it's probably that too. We have yet to discover those circles, but I'm sure they're there. But yeah, I mean, the shit is tough whenever you have to adapt, and taking and giving notes is all the more meaningful, because you then have people who give a shit about your craft, who want you to perform at your best, rather than having some random schmo, reading, or even people who are close to you but not in the industry, who don't really understand this, would give you the wrong notes. Like, absolutely, and you have to be aware of that. And a lot of times, like, you're right, like you said, people who sometimes take notes are a little more sensitive than they should be, because again, it's not like what a lot of people I feel like misconstrue is that like they're attacking the person rather than, and they're not attacking anybody. They're just they're reading the script for what it is and what you are showing them, and you are telling them that this doesn't work. This specific thing does not work. And it's okay. Right. You know, I think of that Bill Hader clip. It was really cool. I saw it on TikTok not too long ago, where he said that like I love getting notes all the time. He's like even notes that are just like the vibe is off, or I don't like this scene, or I didn't like how this feels. And he was like, I love that because then it gives me the ability to reread it and understand, and I can even ask questions too. Be like, so was it this particular line? Was it this direction, or was it this action? What, like you ask those questions and then you can get to the bottom of it. It's like sleuthing, like you said. So you just sort of like get, like you play detective and know, like reverse engineer your thing that you are doing and pin exactly what is wrong with whatever thing. And he also said too that like I know it's a bad note when somebody said, oh, I would do it this way. Like I would write it this way. Like he was like, I never follow those notes. So like if somebody tells me like, oh, this scene should have more explosions. It's like, well, this is a comedy sketch. So I don't know why you want me to have explosions for a joke. Like you don't know this. So I'm not going to listen to something that you're essentially taking a creative liberty to essentially rewrite the thing that I worked hard on. And you're going to tell me that like, oh, I would do it this way if I were you. It's like, well, you're not me. So that's why I wrote the script. That's why I have this story, is because I want to have this story, and I want to make sure that this story is going to be told in the best way possible, not in the way that you think it should be told, you know? And I felt like that was powerful. I do think that like there's a little bit of truth to that. Maybe not all the time, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who have good intentions when they give specific notes like that. And I've had a couple of those, and you know, I kind of take it or leave it with that. I don't necessarily think that they're like bad notes. I just think that I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, you know, if I'm going to be changing these things, then I have to change all these other things. So if I know how the script works, I think I'm going to make the changes the way that I see it. And also too, a lot of people don't realize that I've even listened to podcasts about this too, is that you don't need to take all the notes. You don't need to take all the notes. You can pick what notes feel the best for you. Just because
you don't have to take all the notes. Yep.
Exactly. If you feel tried and true in your heart that this thing worked, or whatever process you did to see if you can change it at all and just kind of come up with the same result, follow through with that. Don't act like, you know, oh, well, this script doesn't work if I don't follow this one specific note. It's like you're kind of shortchanging yourself, because then you're hyper focusing on something that may or may not been a big deal in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it's probably not. But we're far past 45 minutes, by the way. You got to go. You got to go eat.
Yes.
And I have to 10-1 so bad.
Perfect.
So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This was great. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Anything else before we head on out here, Christine? I mean, of course, you know what it is. We got the GetReelisms.com housekeeping that you gotta go on the website. You gotta get your book. You gotta get your hats.
Yes.
You gotta get your shirts. You gotta get it all.
Babies.
And you got to get the baby book. You got to get it for the babies, dude. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta get the babies too. Start them young.
Save the babies. Teach film. Save your babies by teaching them film. You know what I mean? We're trying to do the Lord's work here.
You gotta get the baby one.
Yes. And Gilbert Baker said the book,
if
book
you have
paper and digital.
friends who are popping out kids, this is what you get them.
That's what you do. That's what you do. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's been the Get Reelisms podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll be back next week, maybe soon. In-person studio, couch studio, Get Reelisms, maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows?
But until then, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Instagram. Yes. Thank you so much, Facebook.
Thank you, Jen, for
we love you. We got to go now.
Yes.
Bye-bye.